No, A is always the front number.
So it would be 9 in this case?
Yeah, because if you look, right, it's over A squared and over A squared.
Oh.
Okay, so it's really important for these, and actually everybody should hear this, so shh. It's really important in this section, now that we've covered all of the different types, that we can identify what we're looking at before we get going, right? So if we see a variable squared over a number plus a variable squared over a number equal to 1, that's going to be an ellipse, which means that the bigger number is A. If you see a variable over a number minus variable over a number equal to 1, that's a hyperbola, which means A will always be in the front. Okay? So it's really important that you can identify what you're looking at based off of its equation, so that way you can actually use the right pieces of information. So, again, Chapter 9, Section 5, right? Last section in this chapter. So what that means is today is what, Wednesday? Oh, that means tomorrow's quiz review, which means Friday's quiz. Yeah, it's over 9.4, 9.5, dude. This is hyperbolas and ellipses. So it's going to be, if it's a plus sign, it's an ellipse. If it's a minus sign, it's a hyperbola. And then you just match up your stuff and run. Okay? So that means next week we'll be reviewing for your test over all of Chapter 9. Again, here's your homework if you need it. And just make sure for 27 through 32, right, I want you to identify what it is. Is it going to make a circle, a hyperbola, a parabola, or an ellipse? And then you don't have to graph it, but find me the important stuff, right? So if it's a circle, I need center and radius. If it's a parabola, I need P, focus, directrix, vertex, and the chart. Okay, so parabolas have a lot of pieces in them. If it's an ellipse, I need vertices, covertices, foci. And if it's a hyperbola, I need vertices, asymptotes, foci. Everybody good with that, yeah? Here's the formulas for a hyperbola. Anybody still need them, or did everybody get them the first time? Okay, so again, the important thing here is A is always in the front. So where an ellipse is determined by whether A is under X or A is under Y, what determines what kind of a hyperbola we have is whether X is in the lead or Y is in the lead, and that's because for subtraction, right, order matters. So having X squared minus Y squared is a very different graph than a Y squared minus an X squared. So up first is number 6. Can somebody read number 6 for me, please, and thank you? Equals 1. Okay. So first things first, I have to recognize what I'm looking at, right? So I see a variable squared over a number minus a variable squared over a number equal to 1. So what kind of a shape is that? Is that a parabola, a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola? It's a hyperbola, right? So remember, hyperbola is the only one we have that has a subtraction between the X squared and the Y squared. Okay? Parabola is only one piece is squared. Circles, X squared plus Y squared equals a number. Ellipses, X squared over A squared plus Y squared over B squared equals 1. And then for your hyperbola, you have X squared over a number minus Y squared over a number equals 1. So the difference between an ellipse and a hyperbola is really right here. Is it a plus or is it a minus? Everybody good with that, yeah? Okay. So if it's a hyperbola, what I really need to pay attention to is whether X is in the lead or Y is in the lead. That determines which equation I use. So do I have X in the lead or Y in the lead here? X. So if I go back to my list, I'm using this top list of equations right here. Everybody good with that, yes or no? Because once we actually start using all this stuff, hyperbolas and ellipses look very similar. We always find A, B, C. The equation for the foci is different between the two, right? So it's really important that you're matching up the right stuff. So you have to be careful here and move directly, and you do what the equation says, but you have to make sure you're using the right equation for the picture. Make sure your equation fits the style to the problem they give you. Everybody all right with that? Yeah? Because I know it's really easy right now that they're giving you all hyperbolas because this is the hyperbolic section, right? But when I give you the test or the next quiz, I'm not going to tell you whether it's an ellipse or a hyperbola. I'm just going to say graph the equation. So you have to be able to look at the equation and figure out, is this the equation to a parabola, a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola? Everybody okay with that? Yeah? All right. So we're using the top equation, and I need to find my A, I need to find my B, and I need to find my C. So for hyperbola, where is A? In the lead or in the second piece? In the lead, right? So the 144 represents my A squared. So if 144 is A squared, how big is A? 12. All right, the second piece is my B. So if B squared is 36, what's B? 6. And then C is my focus, right? So I have to use my little formula. For a hyperbola, C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. So I take my a squared, which is 144, add my b squared, which is 36. C squared is going to be equal to, what is it, 180? And then I got to square root that, so what's the square root of 180? It should be like 13 point something, I think.
4-1.
Oh, 4-1. Okay, 6-4? Okay, thank you. Everybody okay with finding A, B, C? Everybody okay with where I'm getting that information from? How I'm picking the numbers? How I'm finding the final answers? Yes, no, maybe? Alright, so for a hyperbola, right, I need to find asymptotes and foci. Alright, so for this style, are my vertices going to be at A0 or 0A? So let's go back and look, right? I'm using the top one, so my vertices are where? A0, right? My asymptotes are going to be at plus or minus B over A, and my foci are going to be at C0, okay? So now all I do is plug that in. So my vertices are going to be at plus or minus A, 0. My asymptotes are going to be at plus or minus B over A, X, right? But real quick, what's 6 over 12 reduced to? 1 over 2, right? 1/2. So I'm going to write this as 1 over 2x. And then my foci are going to be at plus or minus C, 0. Everybody okay with where all this is coming from? Yes or no? So all I'm doing is finding A, B, C, and then plugging it into what the formula tells me to plug into. Alright, and then all I do is plot all my points and then draw the picture. Everybody good? Yeah? So now we're going to plot everything, right? So I need to get out to 13.5 on my scales. Fortunately, that's the x-axis, which tends to be the bigger one when I graph these. So let me take a look and see what I can do. Alright, so since I'm changing my scale, I'm going to leave a little note for myself and for everybody else that reads my work as to what my scale is. Alright, so I start with the vertices, right? Where are my vertices? Plus or minus what? 12, 0, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's my vertices, and again, I'm going to label everything. Vertex. Vertex. Okay. What's the next thing I'm going to graph? Asymptotes. Okay, that works. Slant asymptotes are not always through 0, 0. Okay? Slant asymptotes that you guys are going to encounter at this stage in your mathematical careers are always going to pass through 0, 0. Okay, slant asymptotes are they're not very common, let's put it that way. Okay? But basically why they're called slant asymptotes is because their equation is an actual equation to a skew line where it's like y equals mx plus b. Okay? So for you, because our center is 0, 0 on these hyperbolas, your asymptote is always going to pass through 0, 0. Which, if you notice the equation, it's y equals plus or minus a over b x with no tail behind it, right? That's because we're passing through 0, 0. So, how do I find my asymptote? What was the equation again? 1 over 2. So I'm going to start at 0, right? That's my b. And then what's my m here? You said it was 1 over 2, right? So am I rising up or down? Up, how far? 1, right? And then do I run left or right? Right, how far? 2. Everybody good, yeah? Alright, so my line is going to pass through 0, 0. So there's one side of it. Okay. Let me change the color so it stands out a little bit more. Everybody okay with how I found my first asymptote? So that's the positive side, right? But now I have to find the negative half of my asymptote because remember that equation is a plus or a minus. So again, I still pass through 0, 0. But instead of going up 1, 2 to the right, I'm going to go up 1, 2 which way? To the left, and that covers the negative half. So, there you go. Here are your asymptotes. Everybody okay with how I'm making those? Yes, no, maybe, how I'm finding the equation? Any last calls of any I don't knows? Okay. Last thing is the what? What's the last thing I have to graph? Right, the foci, right? So what was the equation of that? Plus or minus 13 point. Okay, so I'm at 12 here, right? So 13.5 is going to put me right about there because I'm counting by 2's. And then again, I'm going to label this as a focus. Focus. So remember, when you label inside the graph, you use the singular version of things. Co-vertex, vertex, focus. okay? When you're labeling multiples outside, over here on this page, we use plural because the plus or minus represents 2, right? So these are vertices, asymptotes, foci. Everybody okay with that, yes or no? So please make sure your English matches what it's supposed to. And then here's your asymptote and asymptote. Okay, so to finish this off, right? Which way is this hyperbola going to point? Down the x-axis or down the y-axis? Is it going to go like this down the x's, or is it going to go like this on the y's? Which axis is this? Right, it's the x-axis, and this is my vertex, which means my focus has to pass, or my graph has to pass through that, right? Can my graph cross an asymptote? No, that's what that represents, right? So my graph is going to start up high here on the asymptote, follow it, curve through the vertex. Oh, whoops, a daisy. I almost had it. Follow close to the asymptote, curl through the vertex, and then come back down the asymptote on the other side. Everybody okay with that? Yes or no? Ugh, that's disgusting. That's even worse. Yeah, I guess I'll just use black. Alright, everybody okay with that? Yes? And then I do the same thing on the other side. Start up at the asymptote, follow it as long as I can, curl through the vertex to the asymptote on the other side. Alright, so any questions on how to graph this hyperbola? Yes or no? I know we're kind of moving slow through these. They take a while, right? But are there any questions on how I'm getting all the information I'm getting and then how I'm making the picture? Yes, no, maybe. So remember, this graph itself is worth 4 points, right? 1 point for each asymptote, 1 point for each branch. The information over here is worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, these are worth 10 points. Okay? 1 point for A, 1 point for B, 1 point for C, 1 point for the vertices, 1 point for the asymptotes, 1 point for the foci. Just making sure I don't want to move on if somebody's like, I'm lost. So what's number 10 say? So I'm going to move faster through these because we're down to 20 minutes. Okay. So there's a couple of things here. If I asked you to identify this, okay, is this a parabola? No, because both pieces are squared, right, or both variables. Is it a circle? No, the formula for circle has to have a plus sign in it. So you're close, right? It's got the circle look, right? A number x squared. Huh. Oh. Well, let me finish my rant, and then we'll redo it. All right, and then we'll do 10. So it's not a circle, right? Is it going to be an ellipse? No, an ellipse has to have a plus sign as well. So what is it? It's going to be a hyperbola. But what does a hyperbola equation have to be equal to? 1. So I'm going to start off by dividing both sides by 256. And when I do, that 4 that's leading on x squared will go away, which is what I have to have. I have to have x squared over a number minus y squared over a number equal 1, or y squared over a number minus x squared over a number equal to 1. But the important thing is that the variables have to have a coefficient of 1. If I have anything else up top, I can't graph it. Is everybody all right with that? Yeah? Okay. So for this one, you divide both sides by 256 to find your a and your b. All right? So let's try that one more time. Number 10 says what?
49x squared minus 4y squared equals 196.
Okay. So same basic approach here, right? So if in order to graph these, I should be able to get things to cancel away from the x and the y to where I have a lead coefficient of 1. So again, does everybody recognize that this is going to be a hyperbolic function, yes or no? Right, and that's because of the minus sign, right? The only one that we have that can handle minus, hyperbolas, okay? Or parabolas if only one of the variables is squared. So, what's my first step? Divide everything by 196. Okay, so what's 49 divided by 196 reduced to? 4, okay, or 1 over 4. So you get x squared over 4 minus, what's 4 over 196 reduced to? 1 over 49, right? Equals 1. So now it looks like our traditional type of problem. Is everybody okay? Okay, what's in the lead? X or Y? X. So that means that I'm going to use the top equation again, right? Everybody okay with how I'm building this? All right. So next up, A, B, C. A is 2, B is 7. Everybody good with that? All right, C. C is going to be the square root of 4 plus 49, so that's the square root of 53. So 53 square root is 7.2801. So you get plus or minus 7.2801. Any questions on ABC, yes or no? Vertices for this style of problem, is it going to be A0 or 0A? A0, so I'm going to get plus or minus 2, 0. The foci always match the same format as the vertices, so this is going to be plus or minus 7.2801, comma 0. And the asymptotes for this style is it A over B or B over A? B over A. So I'm going to get plus or minus 7x over 2. Everybody good, yes or no? Any last minute anythings, or are we all right? So I can go to the graph, right? All right, so what do you want me to graph first? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I have to get all this stuff up here, right? But where do you want me to start? If you don't know where to start, go back to the beginning, right? So let's start with the vertices. What was the equation for that? Okay, plus or minus 2, 0. Vertex, right? So what do you want me to graph now? Foci or asymptotes? Foci, all right, I'll do the foci just because that's in order that I wrote it, right? So what was the coordinate of that? Plus or minus 7 point something, right? So here's your first asymptote, right? Passes through 0, up 7 over 2, down 7 over 2. Everybody good? And then up 7, 2 to the left, down 7, 2 to the right. And that should be right there. There we go. All right. Any major questions? Asymptotes. That's what I did. All right. So 0, right? Up 7, 2 to the right. Up 7, 2 to the left. Connect your dots. Draw your asymptotes, right? The important thing up here that most people forget is that your asymptotes have to be, pretend that says asymptotes, is that asymptotes have to be dotted lines. Okay? So if you draw an asymptote as a solid line, you just cost yourself a point. Alright? They need to be dashed. Yeah, and it's one of those things where if you're not sure if I can tell, just write dash line. Okay? Or something like that. Leave me a note. Alright? When in doubt, assume I don't understand. It'll help save you points, I guarantee you. Alright, so same thing as always, right? Start next to the vertex, or sorry, next to the asymptote, curl through the vertex, and out the other side, right? So if you notice, my asymptote is really sharp right now, right? It's 7 over 2, so it's a really steep slope. So I'm barely clearing where I have to stop my graph. So that means that my graph is going to kind of come in very flat. Okay? So again, it's just a sketch. Is everybody all right with that? Yes or no? Maybe. Yeah, that works. All right. I've had classes talk about that for the last 4 years. It'd be nice to actually have one follow through. 18. What does number 18 say? Foci 0 plus or minus 4. Okay. Okay. And then does it give you anything else, right? It just says find the equation, right? Okay, so I know I'm graphing a hyperbola here because it says find the equation of the following hyperbola. So I start here. Now, I know my a squared is going to go on the bottom on the left, and I know my b squared is going to go on the bottom on the right. What I need to figure out is whether it's x squared minus y squared or y squared minus x squared. So what I want to do is look at the format for the vertices. The vertices say 0, comma number, right? So when it's 0, comma a, is that x squared in the lead or y squared in the lead? y. So I get y squared minus x squared on top. Everybody okay? What number comes out of the vertices, A or B? A. So I'm going to have 2 squared on the bottom there. Everybody good? Okay, the foci stands for my C, so I'm going to have to use foci to find my B. So focus equation is C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Plug in what you know. My C is 4. My A is 2. And then I need to find B. So I'm going to get 16 equal to 4 plus B squared. B squared is equal to 12. Everybody okay? Now if I want to, I can go B equals square root of 6. But when I put it up here, is this number in the denominator an A squared or a B squared? It's a B squared. So if I get B squared equal to 12, I can just do what? Just put a 12 up here. Okay, what's important is that I don't square this again. Okay, this is not 144. Everybody all right with that? Yes, no, maybe? All right, and then what's 2 squared? 4, thank you. So I get y squared over 4 minus x squared over 12 equal to 1, and I'm done. Any questions on how I found A, B, or the format? Everybody all rock? Well, I mean like with this, not like, you know. Yeah, I can't help you with that. I don't have any suckers, and I charge too much for psychiatric help. All right. Sorry, that's been a running joke of mine for like 6 years. All right, so what's number 30 say? Okay. So there's a big telltale here. You have fraction, fraction, equal 1, right? What does that automatically knock it down to? If you have x squared, y squared with bottoms underneath equal to 1, what are our only 2 options now? Hyperbola or ellipse, right? So what is the real difference between the two? Whether it's a plus or a minus. So which one is plus? Ellipse or hyperbolic? Ellipse. So this is an ellipse. So I need to see that somewhere on your paper. Okay? And then when I graph an ellipse, what are the key pieces? What do I need in order to graph an ellipse? I need 3 pieces of information. What do I need? Vertices. What else do I need? Foci. And what else? For an ellipse. I've got vertices, I've got foci. What's the other thing I need? Covertices. Okay, so why did I put them in this order? A goes to vertices, B goes to covertices, C goes to foci. Alright? So, for an ellipse, which value is our A squared? The first number or the biggest number? Biggest number. So what's my biggest denominator? 256. So A squared is equal to 256, which implies that A is equal to what? So what's the square root of 256? 16, right? So my, well, I'll wait for that. Okay. B squared is then equal to what? $144, which means that A is equal to what value? 12, right? Everybody okay so far? Yes or no? Okay, so how do I find foci for an ellipse? The equation is C squared equal to A squared minus B squared. Okay, so I get C squared equal to 256 minus 144, which means that C squared is equal to 112. So now I have to square root this, right? So what's the square root of 112? 10 point what? 5830. Okay, so everybody okay with ABC? Yes or no? For my ellipse, right? Where's my A? Under X or under Y? It was under Y, right? Right here, the biggest number, right? Because it's an ellipse. Well, no. It's just, that happens a lot. That's why you got to be careful as to whether it's an ellipse or a hyperbola. Okay? Because the rules are very, very close to each other, but they're different enough to where they will give you the wrong answers. So, my A is under Y squared. So, for an ellipse, if A is under Y squared, what's the order for the vertices? Is it A0 or 0A? 0A. So I get 0, plus or minus 16. Everybody okay with that? Yes or no? So the co-vertices are always the opposite of the vertices. So this is going to be plus or minus 12, 0. Everybody okay with that? Yes or no? And then foci always match the vertices. So whatever its style is going to be what we use. So it's 0, comma, C. And you're done. So it's an ellipse. I have my vertices, my co-vertices, and my foci. So I could plot all 6 points, connect the vertices and co-vertices with the foci on the inside, and I'm done. Okay? Any questions on how to do number 30? So this is what I want to see for this set. You don't have to graph it, but you have to find all the information so you could graph it. Any major questions on 30? Yes or no? All right. So let me get back to your homework assignment. All right, so here's the 9-5 homework. Make sure you have it. It's due tomorrow. All right, so we're going to start reviewing for your hyperbola ellipse quiz. All right, tomorrow. So, again, it's very important that you understand how these two things work, how they're similar, because there's a lot of similarity, but at the same time how they're different, so you are being accurate. Everybody good? Yes or no?